Welcome back. My name is Markus Wesaw, and I'm holding a Toolbox talk today on counterfeit fasteners and bolts because I think it's making a comeback, and I'm seeing quite a lot of these bad bolts or counterfeit bolts during my site inspections and visits. And again, I'd like to get the word out on these counterfeit fasteners. So, what does counterfeit mean to begin with? Since I've been bringing this up a lot lately to different managers and superintendents, that's the number one question I get. What does counterfeit mean? So I want you to think about a counterfeit $100 bill. That $100 bill may look real, it may feel real, but when an expert checks it out, the $100 bill is simply counterfeit and it has been forged. Okay. Now, counterfeit bolts are usually rated, typically in industrial uses, we use grade 5 ratings or a grade 8 rating. There are other ratings depending on rigging requirements and different types of equipment, but those are going to be your standard type of bolts used throughout industry. Okay, so counterfeit bolts, like a counterfeit grade 5 or a counterfeit grade 8 bolt, would not hold up to the standards that it's been rated for. So it looks like a grade 5 bolt, looks like a grade 8 bolt, but it's just not. Think about that $100 bill. Okay, when we check it out or when something bad happens, that's when we know we have a problem. Okay, so this really equates to a false sense of security, and counterfeit bolts could lead to an accident like a severe injury, the collapse of rigging equipment, or any number of awful events that we just don't want to happen. So how do we know what to look for in a bolt? Okay, this may seem to be really boring to a lot of you, but there's not a whole lot to do in Wyoming, so I do kind of get into some weird things once in a while, and bolts is one of them. So if I can draw your attention to what a grade 5 bolt is, you'll see that there is 3 tick marks on the head marking of the bolt. Okay, there are some others listed there, but if you want to look at those, just pause the video and check those out. Now I want you to take a look at what a grade 8 bolt is. And you'll see it's kind of the fourth one from the top. And what we see is we will see the manufacturer's symbol or initials on the head of that bolt, so we know who made the bolt. Okay. So keep that in mind. So the Department of Energy actually put out a list of counterfeit bolts that have been known to be suspect or counterfeit altogether. Now, to me, this has always been very interesting because you would expect something like this to be published by OSHA, but you would be wrong. This list comes from the Department of Energy, and there'll be a link in the description box there so you can check out that document for yourself and evaluate the information there on your own. But nonetheless, the Department of Energy has said any grade 5 or grade 8 fasteners like bolts that do not bear any manufacturer's head marks, meaning the symbol or some kind of an initial, like Fastenal, for example, would be FNL. Okay, so we would see the FNL in the middle of a grade 5 or a grade 8 bolt made by Fastenal. Okay, and here you can see a couple others for grade 5 that have been known to be suspect or counterfeit, and that would be the letter J or KS in the center for a grade 5 bolt. And let's move on now to grade 8 bolts. So grade 8 fasteners with the following manufacturer's head marks, according to the Department of Energy, have been known also to be very suspect or counterfeit altogether. So what I'm going to draw your attention to here is I've taken an example of some bolts that I've removed from service in rigging equipment, swing stages, and a few other places just recently with the hollow triangle head mark that you see in that left-hand column second from the bottom. Okay, and I'll show you that here in just a moment as we transition to that. But any of these bolts, you look on the head mark and you see any grade 8 bolt with any of these initials, I want you to take them out of service. I want you to report it to management, and you should probably do a safety alert within your organization as well on these counterfeit bolts. Very, very crucial, very dangerous to be using these types of bolts. Recently, I've noticed a comeback in these counterfeit bolts. We haven't seen counterfeit bolts to this degree in quite some time, but there seems to be a comeback, and what I'd like to do is get the word out and promote some awareness on counterfeit bolts so you can inspect your equipment in the workplace for potential counterfeit bolts or bolts that we consider suspect. Now, the Department of Energy has actually published a few guidelines and charts for us to help identify counterfeit bolts, but you'll see here I've got 3 bolts in particular that I've identified as highly suspect or known to be counterfeit due to their head markings. So what you'll see here is you'll see 3 tick marks right there, and you can see the triangle there. This is a grade 5 bolt, and then you can see this, and this bolt has 6 tick marks on it, and you can see that triangle as well in there for this particular bolt. And then this bolt again is a grade 5, and you can see the triangle there. If you reference the Department of Energy's chart, this is a known counterfeit or suspect bolt. Sometimes you'll also see that there's no head marking or no manufacturer's marking or symbol, which it can be considered suspect or counterfeit as well. So I hope that helps raise awareness. And what I'm going to do is put a link so all of you can see the Department of Energy charts and get some more information on that. But do inspect your workplace for these bolts. It can be quite a serious issue, especially if you are utilizing some type of equipment that employees would be using for, I don't know, lifting heavy objects or holding scaffolding together. Things of that nature make these bolts very critical. So if you are supposed to be using a grade 8 bolt, for example, check that grade 8 bolt. Check that it has those 6 hash marks or tick marks on the head, and make sure that the manufacturer is a known manufacturer of quality and non-counterfeit bolts. Again, my name is Markus Wesaw, and I've been your facilitator for this Toolbox talk on counterfeit bolts. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you find the information useful. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.